Yeah, sorry. People want to, they're like, hey, can I call you? I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm on the air. I'm talking to people. I don't have time for that. I do have time for a little Arturo Fuente right there, wearing the cornflower blue Hanoverian from Von Riest Cigars, Von Riest of Cigars, Von Riest Watches, Rieste, Von Riest. Indiana made. Use promo code CATS. Get your discount. Von Riest watches. So much to get to. The Consul General to the Midwest from Israel, Yinam Cohen, is going to be with us about the war that wages once again in Gaza. And Splashdown, that's where we're at. Bring us into the radio show, producer Landon. Splashdown is a sight to behold. Fantastic and wonderful and terrific, and I'm thrilled to see it. All rational people are thrilled to see these two astronauts make it back to the United States. Take it back. Make it back to planet Earth after being left in space to see Butch Wilmore, as he is known, and Suni Williams, after 9 months, get back to Earth. And there are a series of stories going around about this, that somehow they were not abandoned in space. They weren't just left in space. And you have Mark Kelly. Actually, I take this back. Scott Kelly, the brother of astronaut and Senator Mark Kelly, saying, my gosh, they were never just stranded in space. That's a silly thing to say.
I was watching your previous program, The Five, and they're talking about abandoned and they were stranded by President Biden. That is not true. They have had a spacecraft up there since September that was going to bring them home. They've always had a ride home, and the decision to keep them up there had nothing to do with politics. It was just the fact that you need crew members to operate the space station, and they were the two that were there, and you had to send up a vehicle with 2 empty seats. So the safest thing to do was to just leave them there. But they weren't stranded. They always had a ride home. Now,
that is, with all due respect, because I would never question the man when it comes to space travel. But the idea that they weren't stranded because there was a vehicle there is so insulting to rational people. What did it matter if the car was there if your parents said you couldn't drive it? What did that take? All of 4 seconds as I check my vonreist.com time? What does it matter that there was a capsule there if NASA said you can't use it? You can't come home. So the very concept of stranded, I would argue, is accurate.
They were only supposed to be there for 8 days. So to answer your question, yeah, it's mentally challenging to go on a mission where you think it might be 8 days. You know, it could be longer because it's the first flight of a vehicle, and sometimes there are problems. And NASA made the right choice to keep them up there longer. And that could be tough mentally. But I've known Butch and Sonny before we were all any of us were astronauts, and they're very experienced naval aviators, test pilots. And even though it might have been a challenge, I'm sure they rose to the occasion, just like many astronauts would do, if not all. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure they're really happy to be home.
I do not believe that a single person questions whether or not these two are tough as steel. I don't believe anybody questions that at all, in any way. The idea that that someone would think that these two were weak and they needed rescue and they couldn't handle it. That's I don't think anybody in America is saying that. What we're saying is that it seems rather obvious that it was political that they were not brought back. It seems very, very clear that it was political, the reasons that they were not returned. And a lot of people got political. And a lot of people got super, super nasty. For example, the whole team at MSNBC. You may not remember this. I absolutely remember this. That there was Michael Steele on MSNBC. I think this is the right clip. Mocking, along with Simone Sanders, Elon Musk, because in one of the tests of his rockets, it had exploded. There were two of them that had exploded in one after another, not the same day, but a few weeks after each other. The booster is still caught, but exploded, and some flights were delayed, and people were angry. Do I have this right? Is this the right part of him?
And work that out, and leave those of us who do government to do government.
There it is. This was Michael Steele. He formerly was in charge of the GOP. He used to be the chair of the Republican Party.
My suggestion for Elon, his response to all of this was rockets are hard. And Mr. Musk, if they're so hard, why don't you go back to your day job and work that out, and leave those of us who do government to do government? Because you can't do both. And clearly you're failing right now at both. Your rocket.
Elon Musk is the reason these two astronauts are back as quickly as they are. I thought that was one of the most disgusting and despicable and low rent and low class statements to ever be made. The very concept that we would say to people, if it's too hard, don't do it. We don't do that in America. We don't say that in America. It's hard and we do it and we overcome. And that's the message you want to put out there. And you want Elon to be successful. You don't want him to fail. You hate him so much politically that you want him not to be able to have rockets that work. Do you know how gross that is? Do you know how gross Michael Steele is? I mean, this is standard operating procedure for the kind of people they put on MSNBC. I mean, they could change, but then again, who's watching anyway? And eventually, where's that network going to be? At least CNN has a fighting chance with Scott Jennings at they're making the primetime hours worthwhile. What a despicable and awful thing to say. What an awful human being. And now the question is, Michael Steele, where's the apology? Because look what he did. Look what that team did. Look what a big vision, a big thought, a big philosophy did. Not your small ball, Michael Steele. Not your cheap nonsense with the worst advice. You want to talk about advice you should never give your kid? There it is. It's hard, so don't do it. No, any parent who gives that advice, that's a parent who sucks. Just straight up trash. And this was Michael Steele, and they're kind of like laughing about it over there. They think it's great. Then there's the idea of whether or not Joe Biden did not make a move to return these astronauts after the Boeing Starliner failed, and it failed magnificently. Whether or not he didn't ask Elon Musk because he didn't want to be seen giving Elon the win. I'm not sure what one does with that information. We're talking about people's lives, and I'm going to discuss more of this. And I will. We're talking about people's lives here. You're worried about political win. This is when you're worried about politics? Good Lord. there's a story in here that has more to do, that is more than just about these astronauts returning home. And it has to do with how broken people are. Broken in every way. When you look at these kinds of reactions, you can't cheer Musk for bringing people back home. You can only key a Tesla or set them on fire or sit there and cheer, right? Because the stock price has gone down and you play this ridiculous Tim Waltz nonsense.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, and take out, just telling you.
That's a guy who's created nothing going after the guy who creates things. That's standard. You hear that and you're like, my gosh, Atlas Shrugged is a really good book. It's a broken society. It's broken when you take a look at innovation and you say, how dare you? It's broken when you see success and you're angry about it. Is Elon Musk a conservative? No. Elon Musk is not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination. And to think otherwise is, to me, surreal. Do I appreciate the purchase of Twitter, now X, Twitix, as I call it, and allowing for people to engage freely? You better believe I do. Do I appreciate all the people who now have jobs at SpaceX and this desire to get to Mars and what it has clearly already done in terms of letting the country see what is possible and actually helping people with their lives? Yeah, I'm overjoyed. Overjoyed by seeing it. Isn't that what the rational person does? Sure, you can hate electric vehicles. And sure, you could be upset with Elon Musk for utilizing a system better than you did in order to be able to get the subsidies or whatever else he got to make the electric vehicles. But is there any question that jobs were created? Is there any question that he created a car that people actually wanted, that worked? Is there any question he quite literally created the ugliest truck in the history of mankind and got people to say, you know what? That is so ugly. It's fantastic. I'm going to take 3. The Cybertruck is the French bulldog of cars. Or would that be the pug? The thing doesn't make sense. It can hardly breathe. It is unbelievably unattractive, but if you stare at it long enough, you just want it to lick your face. Good gosh. He did this. He created this. He built this. He said, I have a vision. He got people to go along with him. He got the money and he did the thing. You don't like his politics. That's one thing. You don't appreciate what he's done. That's nutty. That is broken. When you can't even appreciate what's been done, you're broken. You're lost. You have no center. You have no core. You have no philosophical basis for your existence other than hate. And that can't be a way to live. As we see chargers on fire, the electric car chargers on fire. As we see the cars being keyed and vandalized and set ablaze. Right? It's really the cars that are set ablaze, not the chargers. But you see the chargers there in the photos at the service centers. Cars set on fire. It's ugly stuff. It is ugly to watch and ugly to witness. These people are broken. And my only advice to you at this stage of the game is don't be. They could choose the way they live. You do not have to choose to be like them. The world is crazy, but you do not have to be. These people are broken. And while I would argue don't be like them, also understand that broken people do dangerous things. And on this, we all got to be watching out. I'll have more on that. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see a lot of people like this. Michael, welcome to the show. Good to be with you. The Feaster family. The Splashdown was like seeing the moon landing in 1969. All right, wait a second. Maybe not that dramatic, but still pretty fantastic. Still pretty fantastic there. Jeffrey, welcome, man. Good to see you. Good to have you right here. Jennifer, always great. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do every single day. And gnarly news says I'm making noise. I don't know whether that's positive or negative. Right now, gnarly news is the Schrodinger's cat of comments. It could be good. Right now it is good and bad. We do not know until we hear more from Gnarly whether or not it is good or bad. Is this sarcastic or is this good? Haircut. Okay. That so short. I'm so not okay. You guys didn't know me with the long hair. Sarah didn't even know me with the really long hair. You know, I had hair down to my waist. Oh, I got married with hair down to my waist. Yes. You didn't know that, producer Landon, did you? True story. Donated it to Locks of Love. Did that. And when Sarah met me, the hair was just very flowy. Sarah does all her digital work. Super flowy. There was a tremendous amount of hairspray. Now there's only a medium amount of hairspray. But I have had so many like wrong haircuts and I've tried to like fix it and stuff. Eventually, like my wife and I went to my own hair. So I had to like restart. So this is it. This is, what can I say? I'm so hot. Somebody had to say it, and I just felt like it should be me. Yes, something must be done about the activist judges, and we will get into it. But this absolutely loving this letter that Hollywood wrote to Trump. Hey, you can't let these AI people just take all our content, Mr. President. You can't allow that. It's fantastic. Tony Katz today. Great to be with you. Find everything over at tonykatz.com. So here's the story. The story goes that, like we have discussed many times before, AI is absolutely destroying the industry of Hollywood. AI will write the scripts. AI will be the actors. That's what's happening. And part of the strike from a couple years back was about protection against artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is going to ruin Hollywood as we know it. Hollywood is having a different conversation right now and reaching out to President Trump. And they're saying, hey, you can't allow AI companies to utilize the internet to train their systems utilizing copyrighted works. Really an incredible concept. Here it is. I create radio, right? I'm one of these people. I have some skin in the game. Now, the fact that this was a letter signed by Ben Stiller and Mark Ruffalo and Cynthia Erivo and Paul McCartney, I mean, that's just all these people who hate Trump and Trump's terrible, and they're all doing this. What they're saying is that AI and OpenAI, Google, all these companies that are utilizing our content so their engines can learn are profiting off of our work, and we're not being compensated for it. That's a real issue. They've got a very interesting point, because I do believe in copyright. The content that I create via radio, it's mine. And trust me, when people use it without permission, I don't even think lawsuits are enough. I should be allowed to utilize a pointed stick. These people are terrible, utilizing your content without permission. That is just wrong. If you post something on social media and I share it, giving you the hat tip or giving you the credit, that is one thing, right? If you take it, repurpose it, and say, look at this thing I found, and you get yourself 200,000 views, and then you say, oh yeah, thanks to Tony Katz, right? That's too late. That's theft. And I've dealt with people who have done that before. This is, you're taking this technology, you're utilizing my skill set to enhance your technology's capability. You're utilizing it in answers and responses, my actual content. And I don't profit off of that? I don't get compensated for that? Whoa. They've got a really good argument. The fact that they signed the letter to Trump and the White House of Office of Science and Technology Policy, it's just hilarious. And I think Trump is actually going to be sympathetic to the cause, because there's more than just Hollywood content creators out there, myself included, and Trump included. This is Tony Katz today. Hold on one second. Well, that's a serious problem if you can't hear him at all during the phone. Okay. Sorry, we're dealing with a technical issue with a guest. So here's the issue. Somebody's calling in. My problem is I can't get you guys to hear it. We don't have that flow back yet. That's always been an issue. So I'm going to be having this kind of one-sided conversation. You can go to wibc.com and stream and catch the stream there and listen to it. But I cannot bring it to you. And I feel bad about that. We just don't have it set yet. I wanted them to connect here. They weren't able to do so. Okay. Okay. So with that, guys, I do apologize for that. I do. I'm going to have this interview, and I don't think you're going to be able to hear it. And for that, I apologize. Groovy with 30 seconds to go. Yep. So the war is waging once again in Gaza. Hamas, the target, and certainly it is clear that as much as Israelis want the hostages back, and you're seeing protests take place in Jerusalem, moves had to be made. And it would seem to me that moves had to be made for fear that Hamas was utilizing a ceasefire where, yes, Israelis were returned, the Thai nationals returned, and American citizens were returned, and the dead bodies of Israelis were returned. Hamas is using this as a chance to refortify. It seems to me that this is about preventing that from taking place. Tony Katz today, good to be with you. Yinam Cohen joins me right now, Consul General of Israel to the Midwest. Sir, I appreciate you having the time. There was a ceasefire, and as tentative as it was, as awkward as it was as painful as it was for Israelis, Israeli citizens were being returned after over a year in captivity. Why put that at risk? let's discuss what we mean by stopping. How did it come to stop after moving along? What changed in the eyes of Hamas? Talking to Yinam Cohen. He is the Consul General of Israel to the Midwest. You're seeing the protests there in Jerusalem, and I have tried to explain the jumble of emotions that Israelis have since October 8th. I was there around this time last year. It's been about a little over a year since I've been in Israel, where they want their people back, but they want Hamas destroyed. A year later, 500 some odd days later, is that still the feeling? And these protesters in Jerusalem, what is it that Netanyahu and the administration say to them? This all comes back to a conversation, sir, about Iran. Talking to Yinam Cohen, Consul General of Israel to the Midwest. This is about Hamas being a proxy of Iran, like Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran, like the Houthis are a proxy of Iran. In the end, is it the belief of Israelis that the fight with the Ayatollah has to come and something has to give? you discuss tackling this issue together, but clearly a bunch of those nations are going to say to you, you first, Israel. So the question goes back to, do Israelis feel the time has come after the pagers attack against Hezbollah? They, of course, have responded to the Houthi rebels. The United States just responded in a very, very strong way a few days ago. Israel has done almost everything they can to obliterate Hamas, but yet somehow they still exist. You've engaged attacks in Tehran against Hamas operatives. Is Israel ready? Is Benjamin Netanyahu preparing the nation for a conflict or a fight, or however you want to describe it, with the Ayatollah, regardless of what the rest of the world does? Consul General, you know as well as I do that Iran will never get the message. The Ayatollah will never get the message, just like Hamas seemingly has never gotten the message. They are who they are. They are true believers, and their belief in death to Jews and death to Israel and death to America has not changed, which brings us back now to what is happening in Hamas, the attacks with Hamas, the attacks in Gaza by the Israeli Defense Forces. And the question is there now a moment after there was a killing of 400 and killing of others, if we are to believe any numbers that come from the so-called Gaza Health Ministry, which I, of course, do not believe, but is there any moment where Israel is able to say to this terrorist organization, okay, now let's return the rest of our people? And by saying that, does Israel believe that there are any hostages still alive? They're bandying about, right? Yinam Cohen, Consul General of Israel to the Midwest. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us, sharing the updates. We will get back with you in the near future as things progress. General Cohen, thank you so much. Much more to get to. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, thank you for bearing with that. We will take this and we'll take the audio and we'll merge it in. Sarah, you're going to have some work to do. Producer Landon, if you will send me that interview, please, and we will get that done. And so everybody can go back and listen to it and see it for themselves. White House briefing taking place. I'm sorry, is that Was that 2 in a week? Was there one on Monday? Was that last week's? I don't recall. Wow, I don't even recall. Interesting. Looking forward to what is they have to say. I assume there's going to be a little bit of like a kind of like victory, a celebration for getting these astronauts back. I assume that's the case. Good Lord, that is a crazy story. Excellent. Thank you, Landon. I appreciate that. Producer Landon, everybody, doing fine work. It happens. All right. So with that, welcome back, guys. Let me see if I can get to any questions. Michael, you asked, where do I get my tumblers from? You mean like that? If you guys do custom engraving, I want to know all about it. Tony at TonyKatz.com. Tell me all about it. Tell me about your small business. I'm interested. By the way, I like that. Yes, sir. You can do the sir, but I'll go with the yes, sir. I'll go with that right there. I did not take a nap. No. So here's what happens with the tech. So I'm doing everything here in my studio. And then this entire feed is being sent to the station and then distributing out to all the stations. So if someone is connected to the station, like the home base, it's only going out to the stations. I can't bring it back here. That happens because I don't have a return that goes into the stream. The reason I don't have a return that goes into the stream, because you would think that's easy enough, and it actually is that I do not know. And it's probably something very simple. It's something called a mix minus. So it's the idea of how do you bring information back without hearing the information. So if I'm talking and I'm talking to somebody and I want to hear them, I don't necessarily want my own voice back. How do you get that out? So how do I bring it back to the stream without the stream sending it back out to a radio audience? And now you're getting echoes and those kinds of things. I don't have that set yet because I am not an engineer. I'm a radio host who smokes cigars. I don't know everything. I know many things, but I don't know everything. And yes, there are many times, Sarah, who runs all our digital, is accurate. We will pre-record an interview and we'll do it via video. And then I'll just click on the video. Like I can upload that and play it. And then everybody's hearing it for the first time, but sometimes somebody had to speak early, right? They weren't able to be with us live, so I'll pre-record it to bring it to everybody, right? We could do that, no problem. But this was live and could only be done via phone call, and that's why the live stream couldn't hear. I will bet you every dollar I have, and it's not many because it's radio money, that there is an easy fix to this, and yet somehow Sarah has not done anything about it. I for one am shocked and disappointed that Sarah and producer Landon have both failed all of you. I for one, very disappointed. And I'm not going to lie, I think it's anti-Semitism. No, is that not it? I could have sworn that was it. I really thought I was onto something right there. Coming back.
President Trump has promised to protect female athletes. He has threatened to rip federal funding away from any university that defies his executive order banning biological males from infiltrating women's sports, and he is doing it. We are the first to report that President Trump has paused $175 million in federal funding from the University of Pennsylvania over its controversial policies. A senior administration official telling Fox Business that this is just a taste of what could be coming down the pipe for Penn, a proactive punishment from the president to pull back discretionary spending going to the school from DOD and HHS. The university is still at risk of losing all its federal funding as a result of the ongoing Title IX investigation.
Good. Let them lose all their federal funding. Does it matter to me if University of Pennsylvania has funding when they allow men to compete in women's sports? No, screw them. Do not ask us to care. Tony Katz today. Guys, an absolute pleasure. No, I'm not about to spend a moment worrying about what somebody thinks when they engage in such absolute horror. You let men participate in women's sports? You want to erase women like that? Nah, you gotta go. Now, this ties into a story about an Ohio appeals court that overturned the prohibition on gender transition drugs for minors, saying that, yes, you can absolutely chemically castrate your kids. I'll get to that coming up because parents aggressively have to keep fighting on that one. 1,000%. The freezing of this money, let this just be the start. And we now have another hot mugshot. It seems that every week we come across another hot mugshot. I don't know. Should I? That seems like it should be a segment in of itself. Hot mugshot. I don't know. We're gonna need that sounder as well. If we could work on that. What a weird thing. We're a weird country sometimes that we've got a mugshot and everyone's like, oh yeah, oh that's super attractive right there. That's what we want to get into. My gosh, that is something. This girl, her name is Lily Stewart. She's part of Alpha Chi. You gotta love Alpha Chi. I don't know anything about Alpha Chi. I don't know what any of that is. Right there. She was arrested for speeding. Arrested by Georgia State Patrol, and she was brought in. And they took the picture. And they posted the picture. And she has got the best teeth you have ever seen. And so we're clear. Yeah. She's hot.
That's hot.
America, the best looking criminals around. This is Tony Katz today. She's hot, but she was the one who was speeding, and I'm not going to be the one to be part of her defense team, sending her money or anything. Besides, she's going to make plenty of money from OnlyFans. You think producer Landon, she'd be like, listen, I'll do you some favors if you let me out of jail? No. She's got that domino thing where she's like, everything happens to me for a reason. It's all going to work out. She gets arrested. She makes $22 million. That's what she looks like. You think she's a daddy's girl? Well, I guess if the guy's paying enough. Oh, I don't think that's what you meant. I don't think that's what you meant by daddy's girl. Gosh, I got that wrong. I would like to apologize. By the way, Sarah, we need a super chat. I don't even know what it is. All I know is we need one. Thank you. To that end, guys, we have got the White House Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt. She will be providing the press conference, and we will bring it to you. Right now, the radio show is in break. So we're in break. Tell your friends to get here, and we'll be back soon enough. Stay right here. Do not change a thing. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Do not forget vonreist.com. Bam! Look at that. That's in the cornflower blue right there. That's the Hanoverian. The Hanoverian, the Munchner, the Einheit, just some of the watches at Von Reist made right here in Indiana. Available for you. This is an automatic. The Miyota movement, just beautiful. Check it out for yourself. Von Reist, R-I-E-S-T-E, vonreist.com. Use promo code CATS. Get your discount. You have the White House press briefing is supposed to be taking place just about now. And if it is, we will bring it to you. We'll take a look at where everybody's at, what it is that they're doing. Nope. It's just a little ad for C-SPAN. Yep, they're just waiting on it. Should start any moment. Let's bring it to the radio show. Let's go.
Opinion, I need to know more specifics about those 261 cases.
I'm sorry, I can't give you any specifics, sir, over at C-SPAN. We're waiting for a White House press briefing to begin, and they're replaying stuff that makes me say, my gosh, I'm glad I don't watch that much C-SPAN. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find it all at TonyKatz.com. I expect this to be a very, very contentious briefing, because you have two things going on. First, I should say more than that, you have the astronauts getting back. So I expect there should be a bit of a victory celebration on that, which you can argue you should do or shouldn't do. Then you have this multiplicity of judges all saying Trump can't actually be president of the United States. You take a look at what it is they're saying. Trump can't decide to keep transgender people out of the military. Trump can't disband USAID, the Agency for International Development. Trump can't actually deport illegal immigrants. And then you have the Chief Justice, John Roberts, engaging in a rebuke. These judges are indeed out of control. They are, and I expect that to be a front and center subject, because Trump has been very clear. Trump's argument has been, I have never, ever defied a court order. I have never, ever done it. But there's a question to be asked here. And the question to be asked is, what am I supposed to do?
People from mental institutions and prisons.
The judge is essentially saying, excuse me, Mr. President, that there still is a process in place. You can read between the lines. It hasn't been a full ruling yet. And I know the Justice Department is appealing this on a couple of different grounds, but this is leading people to wonder whether there are court orders that you will defy because you believe that the judge has no jurisdiction, or they're political questions and not justiciable at all. And what would you say to that? Are there circumstances where you would defy a court order?
Well, I think that, number one, nobody's been through more courts than I have. I think nobody knows the courts any better than I have. I would say the chief judge does, but nobody knows them better than I have. And what they've done to me, I've had the worst judges. I've had crooked judges. I have judges that valued Mar-a-Lago at $18 million because that benefited his case, because he wanted to see me convicted of something. I have judges that had relatives making millions and millions of dollars on the election, ruling on the election.
But going forward,
I had judges
would
that
you
were
defy
so
a court
corrupt.
order? Because we all know that was outrageous.
I never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future?
No, you can't do that. However, we have bad judges. We have very bad judges. And these are judges that shouldn't be allowed. I think at a certain point, you have to start looking at what do you do when you have a rogue judge? The judge that we're talking about, you look at his other rulings, rulings unrelated, but having to do with me, he's a lunatic.
He wants details of when flights departed.
Well, he can want all the details he wants. But what does one do? I mean, this is the question. What does one do in the face of a judge saying you have to allow certain people into the military? The commander-in-chief can't do that, can't decide that. Story is going to be coming up in just a bit. We will get to it, but I want to hear what this press briefing has to offer, and then we're going to get into the conversation about how Vladimir Putin and Trump came to a deal. It was a small agreement on a ceasefire. Small agreement, right? It would be a ceasefire for 30 days against energy and infrastructure. So there would be no attack on power plants. There wouldn't be attacks on bridges. You'd also have a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea. And then hours after that, there's Vladimir Putin blowing stuff up in Ukraine. And I think some really problematic pieces have been now put out there in the blogosphere, if you will. Trump is getting played. Man, if every side could just, I don't know, stop being ridiculous for 5 minutes. You know what? I know I can't get 5 minutes. I'll take 2 minutes. I'll take 2 minutes of people not being weird. Just don't be weird. Trump got played. It's an interesting argument. I'm seeing it made by people on the political right, and I'm kind of shocked by it because so far, Trump has done everything Trump has said Trump was going to do. Now we can ask ourselves, what is Trump going to do next? That we can ask ourselves, and that could give us some information. But the idea that Putin didn't live up to a deal, do we really think that Putin was a guy who lives up to deals? Let me ask it differently. Did MAGAville believe this? Because if you did, I'm not sure what to do with you. And then over there on CNN, somebody's having an honest conversation. I mean, my gosh, who even knew it was possible?
Yeah,
Oof.
I mean, he was angry.
Yes.
Put it lightly. But I think that he actually hit on a couple different points. First, there's no strategy, right? Or whatever the strategy it is, they're not able to message it enough to their voters, to the Democratic base. But I think the reality is that Democrats are kind of, stuck in between a rock and a hard place because they really are waiting to see what happens with Donald Trump. They're waiting for more pain so that they can message against that more clearly. But in that time of waiting, I think what is at risk to them is that they are unable to message that effectively to their base. So there is a period of waiting to see, okay, this is how we are going to shape up our messaging for the midterm. But in the absence of that, there is really no contact between them and the Democratic base. And that is kind of where things are getting kind of mismatched and off to the left.
Yeah. Now, I don't know who this is, Jasmine Wright. I don't disagree with her in the basic philosophy, but I think that the basic philosophy is what is indicative of the issue. Her argument, if you followed her argument, is the Democrats haven't figured out where the best place to strike is based on Trump's policies. They haven't figured out where the best place is to respond or engage and attack. They're really waiting to see what happens with Donald Trump. They're waiting for more pain so they can message against that more clearly. Translation: the Democrats don't have a position or a policy of their own. They only have a response to anything Trump does. They have no message they can put out of their own. They have no message they can put out that is uplifting. They have no message that connects with voters. They don't have anything to offer them except to be an anti-Trump party. And that's not enough. So I don't know if she meant to so describe the situation with clarity, but she did. I think she did it not knowing. The real story here is the total lack of anything from the Democratic Party. They've got nothing. They're all waiting for Trump to do something so they can find their moment. That's far different than making your own moment. When Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, takes to the briefing, we will bring it to you. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. $10 she'll come out right now. Now that we took the break from the radio side, she'll come out right now. As for the there are people who comment here, and whether they're commenting from all different places. Good Lord. Good gosh, it's unnecessary, but let me address one of these. And they're boring. I believe, and I will discuss this a little bit more coming up. You can argue that Biden didn't abandon the astronauts. Sorry, that's not the way Americans see it. And I can appreciate that you hate Trump, but you have to understand how little I care. You're fodder, Andrew. You understand that. You're fodder for the show that I get to utilize now, and I won't think of you again. Because you're not bringing anything about the show. You're bringing nothing but an anger. We get it. You hate Trump. We don't care, man. I mean, I want you to live a happy life, but you don't want me to live a happy life. That seems obvious. We don't care if you're happy. I can't put that much time into it. I have my own life. I have kids. There are cigars to smoke. I'm a busy guy. But you already had an astronaut state that Biden didn't bring us back, then kind of go back on those words to kind of massage it politically. And we should be clear that if there was no SpaceX, those astronauts who were supposed to be up there for 8 days and have been up there for 9 months would still be up there. You may hate it, man. And you can call me a liar, sure, whatever. If you sleep well, boo, I'm here for you. I will be your whoopee. It's all right. I will soothe your troubled mind. Like a bridge over bourbon-filled waters. But abandon is not a bad word. It's not. I heard what Senator Scott Kelly had to say. I'll share that with you. I think there's a serious disagreement at play. So you can yell and scream all you want, man, and all your just nonsense comments, which have nothing to do with the show. But I can't save you from you. I can't save you from your hatred. I can't save you from your anger. I can't. And I'm not here to try. So the only thing your comments do when they don't actually provide a value to anything, when they're just some scolding, like your Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton, the only thing you become is fodder. The only thing you become is something for me to utilize as a tool to say, let's not be this way, and then move on. It's exactly what I'm doing now. Your comments, just random hate, as opposed to something intellectually well thought out, allowed me just to fill 4 minutes of break. Thanks. Do I have to now send you a check? Are you now a writer? It's like, is that it? No? Yes, maybe? Anyway, we're getting back to the show now. So thanks for that. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of entertainment. Corinne Jean-Pierre just took to the microphone. Corinne Jean-Pierre, I did it again. Caroline Leavitt.
Space Station.
Caroline Leavitt takes to the podium the White House press briefing. Tony Katz today. Let's bring it to her.
But because of the Biden administration's lack of urgency, they ended up spending 9 months in space. Joe Biden's lack of courage to act boldly and decisively was a big reason why Butch and Sonny did not make it back until yesterday. But President Trump doesn't waste time. Immediately after taking office, President Trump directed Elon Musk and SpaceX to rescue these brave astronauts alongside NASA. The president also called the acting administrator of NASA and told her to bring the astronauts home as soon as possible. As acting administrator Janet Petro said herself yesterday, per President Trump's direction, NASA and SpaceX worked diligently to pull the schedule a month earlier. The president looks forward to welcoming Butch and Sunny to the Oval Office when they are recovered. This historic mission brings new meaning to President Trump's promise to always look out for the forgotten man and woman. On another important matter, yesterday, President Trump and President Putin spoke about the need for peace and a ceasefire in the Ukraine war. Both leaders agreed this conflict needs to end with a lasting peace and also stressed the need for improved bilateral relations between the United States and Russia. President Trump also spoke with President Zelensky this morning to align both Russia and Ukraine in terms of their needs and requests. As President Trump has said repeatedly, the precious lives and money that both Ukraine and Russia have been spending in this war would be better spent on the needs of their people. This terrible conflict would have never started with President Trump in charge, but he's determined to end it once and for all.
Now, the questions that are going to be asked, first of all, we were right about the victory lap regarding the astronauts. We said it. Of course, we were right about that. The questions that Caroline Levitt is going to get, she knows it, are about the bombings that took place in Ukraine by Russia against the targets that were told were going to be part of the ceasefire for 30 days. And it's going to be relentless. I assume it's going to be relentless. This should be the first press conference where she takes repeated fire. This is going to probably be the toughest one of her tenure so far. I'm not saying she can't handle it at all. She has proven herself to be competent and capable. But let's get back to it.
Records that are currently only available for in-person viewing are being digitized and will be uploaded in the coming days. On another note, positive economic data continues to pour in, showing the immediate impact of President Trump's pro-growth agenda. After suffering a steep decline in the final year of the Biden administration, the manufacturing sector came roaring back in February. Industrial production surged in February. These are new numbers. 3 times at a greater 3 times rate than the expectations to its highest ever recorded level. And President Trump's laser focus on massive deregulation and unleashing our domestic energy industry is leading to stabilities for Americans' bottom lines. As Newsweek summed it up today, gas prices are plummeting under President Trump. And the Trump administration continues to make American communities safer through our ongoing mass deportation campaign of illegal alien criminals. Yesterday, FBI Director Kash Patel announced the agency captured another fugitive from its 10 most wanted list, securing the extradition of Francisco Javier Roman Bardeles, a key senior leader of the brutal MS-13 gang.
What's interesting about this is that Mexico handed this dude over. Mexico handed this guy over from the FBI top 10 most wanted list. I want to know how long they had him. I want to know, why something what no one was handed over when President Biden was in office. 3 of the FBI most wanted turned over in the last couple months. No one under the Biden regime. Interesting. I say so.
A foreign object. And ICE Houston arrested a citizen of Guatemala convicted of indecent sexual contact with a child in Texas. These are heinous criminal alien monsters who the previous administration allowed to flood into our country. And every time President Trump and this team deport one of them, our country becomes safer. Finally, before I open it up to questions, I want to tout how successful our efforts have been in filling out President Trump's administration. There have been a record number of 281 Senate confirmed nominations already, with another 280 in process. Here at the White House, OPM and GSA, we have filled 100% of the total number of slots. And this is a record number of placements in the first 58 days of any administration, and a testament to the caliber and the sheer quantity of talented people who want to work for President Trump to make America great again. Here in our new media seat today, we have Katie Pavlich. Katie is the editor of townhall.com, which is a subsidiary of Town Hall Media. It's a leading conservative news and opinion outlet based right here in Washington, D.C., with writers and journalists
He's
reporting
also with
around the country.
Fox.
Last year,
So I don't
Town
know if
Hall
they
Media
consider
had
that new
60
media, but
million
Town
unique
Hall,
users and
people at Town
1.4
Hall.
billion page views with a broad reach on a number of social media platforms. With that, Katie, please kick us off.
Thank you, Caroline. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. So given the back and forth with this U.S. District Judge and the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act, does the president plan to send new and additional flights of Venezuelan gang members now designated as foreign terrorists from the U.S. to El Salvador or elsewhere? Can Americans expect to see those flights sometime soon?
Americans can absolutely expect to see the continuation of the mass deportation campaign that has been successfully led by this president, Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and also our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Since you brought up the judges, I would like to point out that the judges in this country are acting erroneously. We have judges who are acting as partisan activists from the bench. They are trying to dictate policy from the President of the United States. They are trying to clearly slow walk this administration's agenda, and it's unacceptable. As the president said last night, we will continue to comply with these court orders. We will continue to fight these battles in courts, but it's incredibly apparent that there is a concerted effort by the far left to judge shop, to pick judges who are clearly acting as partisan activists from the bench in an attempt to derail this president's agenda. We will not allow that to happen. And not only are they usurping the will of the president and the chief executive of our country, but they are undermining the will of the American public.
That is accurate. Now, you may not have heard the term judge shopping before, but that's exactly what's happening. Find the judge most sympathetic to your cause, for your reasoning, for your rationale. That is exactly what the left is doing. And they're utilizing the judiciary to stop the duly elected president from doing duly elected things. And I am a big believer that the answer is to tell the judge, sorry, I've got work to do. I will get into that, but I'll bring it back to the briefing.
We certainly hope that Democrats all of a sudden are for more money in the pockets of the American public. The president has made it incredibly clear that he is committed to tax cuts. He is committed to passing a big reconciliation package later this year, ending no taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security for our hardworking seniors. And we encourage everybody on Capitol Hill to support that when it comes to the finish line, especially Democrats who clearly need a boost from the American public right now. Their approvals are at an all-time record low. Thanks for being with us, Katie. Garrett.
I have one other question, but I want to follow up on Katie's question. Actually, you said the mass deportation campaign would continue, but she asked about the flights specifically. Will those flights to El Salvador continue while this case is being appealed?
We don't have any flights planned specifically, but we will continue with the mass deportations. And I would just like to point out that the judge in this case is essentially trying to say that the president doesn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our American soil. That is an egregious abuse of the bench. This judge does not have that authority. It is the opinion of this White House and of this administration, and that's why we're fighting this in court. And it's very, very clear that this is an activist judge trying to use the president's authority. Under the Alien Enemies Act, the president has this power, and that's why this deportation campaign has continued. And this judge, Judge Boasberg, is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats, and he has consistently shown his disdain for this president and his policies, and it's unacceptable.
You took me right where I wanted to go about the idea that these people are all foreign terrorists, but Judge Boasberg was originally appointed by George W. Bush and then elevated by Barack Obama. I just feel like I should clear that up.
Well, let me just say something to that effect, Garrett. 67% of all of the injunctions in this century have come against which president? Donald J. Trump. Let me say that again. 60% of the injunctions by partisan activists in the judicial branch have come against President Donald Trump, and 92% of those have been from Democrat-appointed judges.
So the White House has made the decision to fight and fight aggressively. And they're not paying attention to any rebuke from the Chief Justice, John Roberts. None. I mean, this is hitting directly from the White House. Yeah. Game on. This is Tony Katz today. All right, let's get back to it, guys. I want to hear more.
respect for the Chief Justice John Roberts, and it's incumbent upon the Supreme Court to rein in these activist judges. These partisan activists are undermining the judicial branch by doing so. We have co-equal branches of government for a reason, and the president feels very strongly about that. Jackie.
Thanks, what options does the president have to, he says he's going to follow court orders. He wouldn't defy a court order, but he's raised these concerns about these judges acting in such a partisan way. What option does he have to ensure that his agenda continues to move forward while this is ongoing and the judges appear to be trying to just block and delay and impede?
Well, you're right. They are trying to block, delay, and impede. This is lawfare. The president is no stranger to it. He faced it in his campaign, and this is a continuation of the lawfare that President Trump faced as a candidate, and he's now unfortunately facing as a president. Clearly, these partisan activists in the judicial branch didn't get the memo on November 5th when the American people overwhelmingly reelected this president to continue with mass deportations. So White House counsel and the Department of Justice are working on this. They're appealing these cases, and we will continue to use the full weight of the White House counsel's office and the president's team of lawyers to fight this in court, because we know we will win, even if we have to go all the way to the Supreme Court.
One more on TDA. Andy McCarthy said in an interview with Hugh Hewitt, he certainly agrees with what the president is trying to do with the Alien Enemies Act, but he's not sure that the law is completely on his side. He cites some previous Supreme Court rulings dealing with enemy combatants in wartime, says that even they have a challenge or a right to challenge their detention in court. He raised concern also that while TDA has been designated as a terrorist organization, these individuals hadn't been prosecuted for terrorism. So my question is, will the president ask Congress potentially to declare war on these cartels for the invasion that he's talked about, so that he's on stronger legal footing?
Well, we absolutely disagree with the legal opinion of the individual that you mentioned. We would not have moved forward with this if we didn't believe the president. This was within the president's executive authority to continue with this mass deportation effort under the authority provided to him under the Alien Enemies Act. And when you read the act, as I did last time at the podium, a predatory incursion is absolutely what has happened with Tren de Aragua. They have been sent here by the hostile Maduro regime in Venezuela, and the president, immediately upon taking office, designated TDA as a foreign terrorist organization. And under this act, it is within the president's authority to deport these terrorists. And anybody trying to defend these terrorists who have now been sent off of American soil should talk to the families of the individuals who these heinous monsters have killed and have raped. If you talk to those families, they are so heartened by the president's decision to take tough action and to use his executive authority, something that no other president has been willing to do, because President Trump does what he says he's going to do, and he is deporting these foreign terrorists from American soil to secure our homeland, and he's within his rights to do that.
Very quickly,
Jennifer.
Very quickly on Tesla.
I
There's
agree.
a website that's trying to dox Tesla owners across the country and saying they're only.
I do agree that I think that the president does have the authority to do these things. And that will get us into the judges. But I do want to hear a little bit more from Caroline Levitt. See what else gets discussed. I'm surprised there's not more right now about Ukraine and Russia. Really am. But we will bring it back to her, bring it back to this conversation. Glad you guys are here. Tony Katz today. That's me. That's the show. Things building out well because of you. So thank you so very much. We're going to work on growing this live stream as much as possible, talking about the good things. Let's bring it back to Caroline Levitt.
Foreign military aid or intelligence sharing with Ukraine, as Russia says it's pushing for, and then have a follow-up on the Federal Trade Commission.
Sure. When it comes to Ukraine, I do have a statement for you from the National Security Advisor and also the Secretary of State. First, I'd like to reiterate what the president said earlier following his call with President Zelensky this morning. He said he just completed a very good telephone call with President Zelensky. It lasted approximately 1 hour. Much of the discussion was based on the call made yesterday with President Putin in order to align both Russia and Ukraine in terms of their requests and needs. We are very much on track, and I will ask Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz to give an accurate description of the points discussed. That statement will be put out shortly. Well, I have that statement for you right here. Bear with me as I read it. Today, President Trump and Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky had a fantastic phone conversation. President Zelensky thanked President Trump for a productive start for the work of the Ukrainian and American teams in Jeddah on March 11th. The meeting of the senior officials from both nations significantly helped in moving toward ending the war. President Zelensky thanked President Trump for the support of the United States, especially the Javelin missiles that President Trump was first to provide in his efforts towards peace. The leaders agreed Ukraine and America will continue working together to bring about a real end to the war, and that lasting peace under President Trump's leadership can be achieved. President Trump fully briefed President Zelensky on his conversation with Putin and the key issues discussed. They reviewed the situation in Kursk and agreed to share information closely between their defense staffs as the battlefield situation evolved. President Zelensky asked for additional air defense systems to protect his civilians, particularly Patriot missile systems, and President Trump agreed to work with him to find what was available, particularly in Europe. The two leaders also agreed on a partial ceasefire against energy. Technical teams will meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days to discuss broadening the ceasefire to the Black Sea on the way to a full ceasefire. They agreed this could be the first step toward the full end of the war and ensuring security. President Zelensky was grateful for the president's leadership in this effort and reiterated his willingness to adopt a full ceasefire. President Trump also discussed Ukraine's electrical supply and nuclear power plants. He said that the United States could be very helpful in running those plants with its electricity and utility expertise. American ownership of those plants would be the best protection for that infrastructure and support for Ukrainian energy infrastructure. President Zelensky also thanked President Trump for continuing to push humanitarian concerns, including the exchange of prisoners of war. He noted they had just had a successful exchange and thanked the president for his leadership on that. President Trump also asked President Zelensky about the children who had gone missing from Ukraine during the war, including the ones that had been abducted. And President Trump promised to work closely with both parties to help make sure those children were returned home.
Now, maybe you missed some of the key things in that, but that's a doozy of a statement right there that Caroline Levitt is reading from the president regarding the conversation with Zelensky about the possibility of ceasefire. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. There are two things there. I'll take the last one first. Hey, you got some nice power plants and electric facilities. We should really own those. Does Zelensky understand that this is the security guarantees that he wanted without having to say the words? We should own their power plants? We should run them? Well, if the U.S. is running your power plants, you don't have to worry about Russians bombing them. They're not going to do that. See, Putin is dumb, but he is not so dumb. Putin is crazy, but he is not so crazy. And he is neither dumb. All right, maybe he's a little crazy. I mean, that is one heck of a statement right there. I mean, that requires its own level of time. But the other part is about the weaponry. We'll find you more javelins. We'll see what Europe has to offer. Notice he said what Europe has to offer, right? Moving things from one place to another. I say to you that if you have a ceasefire in place, why exactly do you need more weaponry to stop attacks that aren't supposed to come? This is the question. This is the argument that people are going to say, whoa, wait, you just said there's a ceasefire. Now you're getting more weaponry for him. How do those two things jive? And I'm curious as to whether or not there's going to be pushback on Caroline Levitt on that subject. Now, I have a whole take on this, and I think the people screaming that Trump's being played by Putin, and people I like on the political right, I don't understand it. I think that it's a misargument. I think it's a tribalist argument. And I think the people who think that everything is about Zelensky and Zelensky's fault, again, a tribalist argument. I don't live in those places. I think there's something, it's not like, well, both sides have a point. That's not my argument either. Rather, it is about seeing the entire board clearly. And I'm really kind of sickened by the people who think that somehow Trump doesn't. That he has a point of view doesn't mean he doesn't see the board clearly. Because if Trump shows anything throughout the entirety of his career, at least his political career, the first two rules of Trumpism apply. The first rule of Trumpism is Trump wins. The second rule of Trumpism is that a deal can always be made as long as it adheres to the first rule of Trumpism. And once you know that, you realize that guy could turn on a dime. And as a matter of fact, we should be depending on it. This goes to the idea of what it takes to make a deal, to which a lot of children out there who went right from college to whatever, it's law school or J school or being in the fancy office or thinking they're self-important, they never once dealt with the real life stuff. They haven't. Let's take it back to the briefing a little bit more.
Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. A mom whose daughter was forced to change in a locker room with a biological male at school filed a complaint with the DOJ. How will the Trump DOJ deal with violations of President Trump's orders protecting women and girls like this?
I would defer you to the Department of Justice on that specific case, but the president has made it incredibly clear that it is the policy of this administration that there are only two genders, male and female, only two sexes rather, male and female, and that we are not going to tolerate such behavior by men pretending to be women. The president will continue to strongly stand for the rights of women and girls, not just in sports and on athletic fields, but also in private spaces like locker rooms and bathrooms.
Good.
Go ahead.
Happy to see it.
On FTC, two quick questions. Can you explain the president's thinking in his decision to fire the two Democratic commissioners, especially given that Mark Meadow is on track to be confirmed next week and there would be a Republican majority? My biggest question is why now?
Sure, because the time was right to let these people go, and the president absolutely has the authority to do it. And they were given ample notice in a letter that I believe your outlet.
Another subject for another day. I do want to get into the conversation about these judges because the more I look at Chief Justice John Roberts' rebuke, the more bothered I am by it. The more it's not a question of insulting. It is about not addressing the subject at hand. And I think we need to address the subject at hand immediately, if not sooner. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, welcome back. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. She's still going. Is Caroline right there?
On the table, and what do the Ukrainians have to do to get that back on the table? And then one on the Russia call as well.
Again, I just provided a very lengthy readout of the call that was provided by the Secretary.
By the way, the crowd now in the briefing room.
And now we have moved beyond the economic minerals deal.
News and information.
Peace. We're at a partial ceasefire.
It's not just nonsense being read from a binder.
And a long-standing peace in this conflict, and that's great news for the American public.
Kremlin readout mentioned that Trump and Putin spoke about potential U.S.-Russia hockey games, and the Kremlin readout also said that Russia wanted the U.S. to stop U.S. intelligence and U.S. funding to Ukraine. The president has said that that conversation did not happen. Just wondering if you can get us any more clarity on that, and also, again, if it's energy infrastructure or if it's energy and infrastructure, because I think there is a big difference between that.
Again, as for the readouts of the call, I would defer you to ours. And when it comes to the topic of hockey, it did come up. However, we're more interested in securing a peace deal than scheduling hockey games right now. Sean.
Hey, about the deportation flight. So was it the president himself who directed the planes to stay in the air after the judge ordered them to turn back?
The president invoked the Alien Enemies Act with a proclamation, which then directed the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State to move forward with the plan of action. And as I said yesterday, all of the planes that were subject to the judge's written order took off before the order was submitted in court. I was asked and answered that question multiple times yesterday. Kate.
So now it's about did Trump know about the order? Did he follow the order from the judge? This about the judges. This is where what we're getting into. This is what we're about to discuss. Glad you guys are here. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Like, subscribe, do all the things if you would. I'd greatly appreciate it. So let us discuss these activist judges, because I agree wholeheartedly that these judges are out of control. I state to you as clear as day that these judges are activists, that their purpose is to aggressively and proactively thwart the duly elected president of the United States. It is obscene and it has to stop. And if there are going to be rebukes from the Chief Justice John Roberts, well, I expect the rebuke against the judiciary as a whole. Tony Katz today. So good to be with you. Let me give you a couple of them. We already know that you've got this Judge Boasberg who said, hey, you can't deport these Venezuelans, turn the planes around. Now, the written order did not say turn the planes around. The verbal said turn the planes around, and there's a conversation if there's a difference. But the president decides immigration policy and sets deportations. What do you mean this judge could say you can't deport these people? Who is the judge to say so? This district court judge, what power do they really have? Well, they're a judge and they can. I don't know if that's true. Now, I'm not going to say I don't believe in courts. I absolutely believe in courts, and I believe in justice. What we're seeing here, I do not believe is justice, but rather what we are seeing here is indeed activism. We're seeing how the political left moves with like-minded fellow travelers to engage in policy and process that affects in a negative way the party they disagree with. Translation, the political left has so bought into the idea that Trump is a threat to democracy that they feel it's okay to destroy the judiciary in order to stop him, because that's what they're doing. The president decides immigration policy. I said so about Biden. I said so about Trump before that. They decide immigration policy. Then you have another judge stating that it is unconstitutional to put an end to USAID. The executive branch can't do this. It takes an act of Congress to do this. Well, I want Congress to then pass the legislation right now. Gone. This department gone. That department gone. And if you have to do it in a reconciliation bill, so you don't need cloture in the Senate, so you don't need the 60 votes, so you can get it done, let's go. And if you say to me, you're usurping the ability of the Democrats to fight back, you want to get rid of the filibuster. Whoa, the Democrats want to get rid of the filibuster. The Democrats were the ones who wanted to end the filibuster. Then they lost an election. All of a sudden, they want the filibuster. Don't trust me about that. Go to Kirsten Sinema, the former senator from Arizona, who's like, all you Democrats want to get rid of the filibuster, and now you're using it all the time. You're such a bunch of hypocrites. She was with them in the Senate and said, don't get rid of the filibuster. You're crazy. You're so political. Because what they are in favor of is destroying their political enemies. They are not in favor of justice or the rule of law. They've proven this. If you want to argue that you can't shutter an agency if you're the executive branch, well, can I at least starve them of all money? Can I fire everybody but one person? The executive branch doesn't have that power or that authority. The agency class must exist because it must. That is obscene. The judge directing the team to halt its work to shutter USAID and reinstate access to electronic systems for employees and contractors who were shut out. He also, this judge, going after Elon Musk. He hasn't properly been appointed with Senate approval in violation of the Appointments Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Now, there is somebody who is in charge of this digital service, which is now Doge, and certainly it's a question of whether or not they're in charge in name only or not. If your consultant, Elon Musk, is making recommendations and you're following the recommendations, what exactly is the issue? You don't like the consultant? And that's okay. None of us liked all these agencies buying tens and dozens of Politico subscriptions at $11,000 a pop. But then you have a judge stating that Donald Trump cannot block people who are transgender from the military. U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes barring Pete Hegseth and other military officials from implementing Trump's order, blocking or barring transgender people from serving openly in the military. A judge that no one voted for is telling the commander-in-chief how to run the military. At some moment, Chief Justice John Roberts, you have to say, everybody just stop this nonsense. You're a judge. You're not in charge of the military. And let me say to Judge Anna Reyes, you're not in charge of the military. Nobody voted for you, and I'm not interested in your opinion. The commander-in-chief can make the call. He can't make the call? He isn't in charge of the military? He's in charge of the military? Only when you think it's acceptable? Nah. No. You don't have to like it. You can vote for somebody else, and they can change rules. But the president is the commander-in-chief. 77 million people voted for him. No one voted for U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes, and she should sit down. If you think that judges should have that much power, I say to you, you don't actually believe in a rule of law. You believe in a rule of emotion. You don't believe in the people's vote having any value whatsoever. You believe that unelected people who are like-minded with a certain political set and a certain ideological set should have this unlimited power. You keep thinking Trump has the unlimited power. That clearly isn't the case, but these judges seem to act with impunity, and the answer is no. The rebuke has to come from Chief Justice Roberts, not against Trump for saying that some judge should be impeached, but rather against these activist judges for being just that. And I think President Trump, who has said he has never not complied with a court order, needs to start today. This is Tony Katz Today. Just one man's theory, guys. One man's thoughts right there. Good Lord. I really do get like a lot of man, there's a lot of trolling. Yeah. Do you think a guy by the name of Juden Peterstein is legit? This is all about the Jews and Kennedy. No, I have not read that. I didn't discuss the Kennedy files. I believe what I said about the Kennedy files is I don't care. I want the Epstein files. But sure, if you want to engage some anti-Semitism, I think that you should just knock yourself out. I am not asking activist judges to tell other judges to not be activists. I'm asking the Chief Justice to tell other judges not to be activists. Now, your argument is that it's John Roberts, the guy who gave us Obamacare. What do you think? Which is why I ended with Trump has to ignore them. I don't know what else you're supposed to do. What do you do with these rogue judges? It has to stop. It has to end. It is clear that the left, and I agree with you on this, has no interest in the rule of law. You heard me say so. They believe in the rule of man, not the rule of law, and they want to be the man. These people are the authoritarians. They make it as clear as day. I don't know if there's any other way to say it or see it or look at it. And what are you supposed to do? You know, there's a famous quote. It was, I've heard Newt Gingrich, the former speaker, discuss this. And then it was it Andrew Jackson? Yeah, it was Andrew Jackson saying about John Marshall. John Marshall has made his decision, Justice John Marshall. John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it. Meaning, we heard you, courts, but we're not paying any attention. We're doing this. Now you say to me, well, that's a bad place you're heading to, man. That is a slippery slope. My argument is we're already on the soap-filled slide. We're going fast. We are going like what was the name of the theme park there in New Jersey? Right? The theme park where everybody died. Oh gosh, I can't remember this. It was in New Jersey. It was 70s and 80s. It was very, very dangerous. Action Park, that's it. Actually, I actually think I was at Action Park in Vernon, New Jersey. I mean, they had no oversight. They had no safety concerns. The place was just a death trap with a pool. It's exactly what it was. But we're on a slope, a slide more dangerous than Action Park. So it has to be stopped somehow. And the Supreme Court has to get active, including other justices saying of the chief, you're failing. Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito got to speak out. You can't be okay with this. It's not a country if the judges are in charge. And let me go a step further. Nico, just to share it with you about Congress having the authority to strip federal courts of jurisdictions. The only court that exists in the Constitution is the Supreme Court. It's the only one. All other courts are created by Congress and can be taken away, and I absolutely concur that they should be taken away. There is no point if this is what you get. Remove the courts. Not all, but many. And everybody will get the message. They feel too entitled. They feel too self-important, and they have too much power. They have too much power. And they are not acting regarding the law. They're acting regarding emotion. That is the rule of man, not the rule of law. And I oppose it in every way. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you quite a bit. Find everything I do at TonyKatz.com. Don't forget Trump and American Reset in 3 bourbons, happening April 17th, right here, Kokomo, Indiana. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. Go get your tickets. Go get your tickets before we sell out. We only got 30 days to go here, 29 days to go, something like that. It's going to be such a good night. It is going to be so much fun. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. Get your tickets. Be a part of the event. It's going to be terrific. Going to be just a stellar. And also, do not forget to get your Von Riest right there. Oh, look at that. Look at that beauty in the cornflower blue. The Hanoverian. They have a series of watches built right here in Indiana. Thrilled to be a part of what it is they're doing, and look forward to creating some stuff with them. Absolutely love it. You're going to love it on your wrist. You're going to wear it everywhere, daily, special occasions, whatever the case may be. Von Riest, VONRIESTE, vonriest.com. Use promo code CATS and get your discount and get that immediately. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you being part of the show, and I will catch you tomorrow, guys. Take care.